Anybody watching this okay, here we go. Just giving it a few minutes to get some folks in here. It looks like we got, oh, wow, it's picking up. We got about 7 people watching right now, 8. Hey, guys, thanks for everybody who's joining me this evening. I always look forward to having these talks with y'all every month. Um, I hope I hope y'all got a chance to listen to Steve and Sheila over on God's Folk and Destiny. Did a fantastic YouTube show just a few minutes ago. I'm kind of sad that this conversation we're having cuts it short. It was really fascinating to listen to all the things they were talking about, and Sheila kind of tell the story of where the AFAs come from. So excellent. Hey, Zach, good to see you tonight. Thanks, Rob. I do what I can. Good deal. Any of y'all that are hanging out watching the very end of God's Folk and Destiny, I don't blame you. Were I not here, I would be there. All right. Well, something I've just got to say to start off with. Midsummer at Odenshof was absolutely amazing. I believe it is my 11th AFA Midsummer I've been to, and they're all unique, they're all different, but the feeling that I get leaving this one was much different than the other ones. Folks like to talk about coming away from Midsummer very energized, and I think that's true. And I think it's something we all do to a degree or another. And I've said it for many years, but I've never been quite as energized after Midsummer as I have been this year. I'm absolutely trying to hit the ground running. The AFA is, internally we kind of reckon the AFA year by midsummer to midsummer. And I'm absolutely ready to get this one going and moving in the right direction. Huge thanks to everybody out here in AFA West that made Midsummer possible. Anybody who's been to our past Midsummers or who's volunteered knows that there's a lot of work that goes into it, and it doesn't always run smooth. This was the smoothest running Midsummer of any I've been a part of. Jessica Rosner in the kitchen, making sure we all ate. It is thankless. It is her spending a lot of time in there cooking while we're out, having a good time and enjoying each other's company. But I assure you that sacrifice is much appreciated by the folk. We all really appreciated it. And Sean Sandin and the Viking Brotherhood just blew everyone away with being able to take care of things, manage logistics, make everything work out clean and beautiful and amazing. All you guys that made it out there, it was awesome to see you. And fantastic Midsummer at Odenshof. If anybody was not able to make it, go to Fall Fest. We got Fall Fest coming up in September. It's in Minnesota. I believe it's going to be the 4th annual Fall Fest. It's absolutely amazing. We would love to see everybody out there. Fantastic event. Some of the most generous, most giving, most hospitable members in the entire Asatru Folk Assembly are right there in Minnesota. And I'm looking very forward to seeing them here in just a couple of months. Well, thank you, Astrid. So how's everybody doing tonight? Does anybody have any questions they want to start us off with, or anything they want to make sure I talk about? I'm trying to keep track of this over on the Facebook too, because sometimes it shows me things that I can't see here in the room. So if I'm looking down, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to make sure I don't miss comments from folks. Got Gothy Brian Wilton saying he's going to be at Fall Fest. It's an exciting reason enough to go there, is hear one of Brian's talks. Hey, Steve, glad we got somebody watching us in New Mexico. Well, until we get some questions rolling here, one thing that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is From this midsummer until next midsummer, some of you may not be aware of this, but 8 years ago, Steve McNallen, our founder, put us on a 9-year cycle for growth and development of ourselves and of the Asatru Folk Assembly. Its first 3 years were dedicated to the idea of awakening. The middle 3 years were dedicated to the idea of empowerment. And the final 3 years are devoted to the idea of immortality. Each of those years is guided by a certain symbol. Oftentimes it's a rune, sometimes it's an ancient solar symbol. And this year we're in year 8, so we're right in the middle of that immortality phase. And the symbol that's going to guide us this year is Othala. And so we're going to be focusing about immortality and how Othala guides that and relates that. And one thing that I noticed this year that's very special, since I've been involved in Asatru, we talk a lot about Othala, but we talk about it in an abstract way. We talk about it as our blood inheritance, as a spiritual inheritance that we're trying to recapture and stake a claim to. I think all of those things are very valid and very important. But now we get to talk about Othala in the most literal sense, it being a sacred land, it being our house, being our odal lands. And for one of the first times in the history of Asatru, we actually have sacred space now. The Asatru Folk Assembly has Odenshof. We have a piece of land that's our odal space to call ours. And that's fundamental in what we're going to be focusing on this year and how we're going to look towards immortality by having that permanent spot in Midgard. And so with that in mind, I said about 2 things that are going to happen between now and next midsummer. And I'm going to need your help to make those things happen, but they will happen. Those 2 things are securing the AFA's second Hof, and that's number 1. And secondly, establishing a place for us to inter our dead. Both of those things are happening. We have plans in the work for both of those. Matthias, no, I am unaware of the new product that you're talking about. Katie, you definitely want to go to Fall Fest 5 if you can't make it to Fall Fest 4. Also, you still got an extra month if you want to plan to try to make it out to Winter Nights in the Poconos. That'll be amazing, and we would love to see you there. Brian Wilton is, in fact, the man. And speaking of Brian Wilton, he's asking us how do we help people make the change from keyboard to real life? I think we've made huge strides in that lately. Over on God's Folk and Destiny a few minutes ago, there was someone commenting that they wanted to join the AFA, but they can't because they don't have Facebook. You don't need Facebook to join the AFA. Unlike some groups, we exist in real life. It was amazing to come back from Midsummer and see all of the pictures and all of the things about everyone else's spectacular Midsummers they were celebrating. And now that we have folk in South Africa and Australia and New Zealand, we have folks that were celebrating Yule at the same time we were celebrating Midsummer. In 15 countries now around the world and all across the United States, we get together in real places. Talk to your local folk builder. They would love to help you get together with actual AFA members, part of your AFA family in real life. And that makes all the trivialness of the Facebook groups and people on the keyboard just go away and disappear into irrelevance. So please, that's why I push so hard to get you guys to go to these events, because once you do, it'll change everything for you. Katrina's asking what to expect. What kind of things happen at Fall Fest? Glorious things happen at Fall Fest. What you can expect for sure, and I'll go from kind of the general to the specific. What you can expect is warm and inviting AFA family, treating you like they've known you for a lifetime and welcoming you with open arms. Absolutely, some of the best people. There's going to be bloats. Um, I will probably be doing one of my Odin bloats in the evening. In one of the evenings, there will certainly be a high stumble, an AFA formal 3 round stumble is going to happen. I know I'll be talking. Looks like Brian will be talking as well. I'm sure we'll have a lot of several talks. I'll definitely have a Q&A session for people there to look me in the face and ask me anything that they want or address things that they may want to talk to me about. Um, we're going to have people traveling in from not just that region, but from all over the United States and hopefully around the world to see it. I'd love to get some of the Canadian members down for Fall Fest. You can expect great food. You can expect tater tot hot dish. I sure expect tater tot hot dish. Tater tot hot dish is amazing, and if you know what I'm talking about, then you obviously agree or you're wrong. It's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to it again this year. I believe there'll probably be something special for the ladies for you guys to go off and do. I don't know what all you guys do by yourself, and it's probably best that way. You guys have some special things y'all are working on, and those are the things that I plan for, and bring something to take notes in if you'd like. Um, yeah, just bring your devotion to your gods and your folk, and bring a big heart, and you'll fit right in the Fall Fest. Hey, Harley, glad you made it. Mm. Hey, Vanessa. Steve, that's not quite what we have in mind right now as far as a place to inter the dead. What we're looking at doing on the grounds of Odenshof is a more of a traditional cemetery setup where the ashes will be interred in a grave spot. We're looking at doing it inside of individual stone ships. We're still designing it at this point, but that's the idea. With a tombstone or a runestone or whatever kind of a plaque or monument people want to make in the center of it, and then a ship surrounding it on a traditional size burial plot, even though we will be interring ashes. So Matthias Futhark just put up a link. I'm gonna trust it and say it's probably okay for you guys to check it out, but I haven't gotten to look at it yet. Okay, we've got how would I guide folks in heathenry from leaving the I'm the biggest edge lord to living a deep and spiritually meaningful life available to folks in Asatru. I think it goes hand in hand with what we were talking about earlier about getting out of the basement and getting out there and meeting people. It's really easy when your connection to Asatru is books or things you see online to build up an image in your head of what you think it is or what you think it should be. And when you go to an actual event and you see how it works in real life and you become part of practicing it in real life, those preconceptions fade away and things change and you reconceptualize how it really is. And what about it you like, what about it's important to you, and how you fit in that equation. And I think that's the biggest difference between a lot of this edgelord thing we see and spiritually fulfilled people is how they interact with the community in the real world and not the one they've imagined in their head. And I say that with no condescension. I certainly did that before I met my first, other Asatruer. When it was all by myself, you have no choice but to come up with an idea of your head of what you think it'd be like. But where the rubber meets the road, if you go with an open mind and open heart to one of these events and you see how it is, then everything changes. Mandy is replying to a lot of comments I'm not seeing. So I'm trying to check these comments, guys. If I miss you, like I said, I'll go back through the comments and answer them. I promise I'm doing my very best to answer everyone I see. Zach, I think a lot of folks do that. They keep their family's ashes in a place where they know they can take care of them, especially when we don't have a sacred spot for them. Come this fall, we will have a sacred spot for them. We've looked into legalities, we've looked into things to the best of our abilities to ascertain it to the best of our understanding. We are completely fine, and we're going to break ground and inter one of our loved ones in a plot at Odenshof come this fall. That's certainly the plan. Well, thank you, Lane. I'm glad you like it. Those the Odin blow up means a lot to me, and I try to put a lot of myself into it. And I'm glad that you enjoy it. Not sure. Water cremation. Do you mean like on something floating out in a lake, or I'm not sure if I follow. Steve, as far as the columbarium thing is concerned, that's an idea down the road in a different location. It's not what our plan is right now, but as we get Hoffs across the country and around the world, they're going to be different. Some of them out in the country may have a lot of space to inter bodies. Some of them more in town we may need that. We may need a smaller situation or like a mausoleum or a columbarium like you were talking about. Hello, Mikhail. All right, guys, I'm quick looking to see if there's anything I might have missed here in the comments. Um, but yeah, if anybody has anything, please say so. Thank you, Ashley. I try. Thank you, Jessica. It's good to see you here tonight. Hail the AFA indeed. Daniel, can you join the Swedish branch, even though you're a Norwegian? Um, our AFA situation over there, regionally and administratively, is AFA Scandinavia. That would certainly be your region if you're in Iceland, Norway, Sweden, or Denmark. Your folk builder's the same, Anders Nilsson, and I'm sure they'd love to have you come over to one of their events. When we were just over there, there was a Norwegian gentleman, Hans, that hung out with us the whole time, and he was one of my favorite people that I met over there. Fantastic guy. He drove my wife and myself from the Oslo airport down into Sweden, where we're meeting the rest of folks, and really enjoyed that little tiniest little snippet of Norway that I got to see. But yeah, reach out to Anders, and that can absolutely be arranged. And I'm sure folks would love to have you over there. Wow. There's so many comments I'm not seeing on this thing. When I'm looking down at my phone, please don't think I'm ignoring anybody. Really, I'm trying to get to all your comments because it's an entire different feed than I'm seeing over here on the side of the screen. Um, where the AFA would like the second half. The internment site is going to be on the grounds of Odenshof, the first internment site rather, and that's certainly as we grow and as we establish more Hofs, we'll have more of those as well. But that's our first goal for a place to put our dead. Second Hof, it's no mystery. We've really been looking at the Northern Plains region. We've been looking in the Minnesota area specifically pretty heavily. We've got committed people there that have put in a lot of years making that a very stable place for us. Um, so we're talking to people. We're having to make deals behind the scenes as far as real estate and financing and things. We're set. We're just finding the right spot and the right people who are selling. And that Hof's on the way and it's happening. I assure you. I talk about that behind the scenes, doing the work on that daily. So that's absolutely happening. And yeah, that's where we're looking at it. Not 100% for sure. I don't want to make promises, but we're pretty solid on that's where we're looking for that second Hof. You know what, Daniel? There will be Hoffs there in time. Um, if I have my way, and if the AFA can keep pushing forward the way we are, there will be Hoffs everywhere in time. We're very much committed to that, and we're not going to stop working until they are. We're not going to stop working until at far beyond that. We'll move on to the next bigger and greater goal. Ah, how can you become part of this group? If you're talking about the Asatru Folk Assembly, please go to www.runestone.org, and there you can submit an application. But there you can also find information about who we are, what we stand for. You can find our declaration of purpose, our statement of ethics, and really make sure that you're on board with our values and the things that we believe. You can also find in our history section, we've got a library there of runestones and issues of our newsletter and things. We've got some issues of the runestone going back to the 1980s so far, so please check that out. Also, on there you can look and you can find what Gothar are next to you, and you can find your local folk builder. And they're the face of the AFA in your area, and they would be very happy to assist you and to answer any questions you might have. And if you do decide to join, to help get you connected with people in your area. Karen, there's absolutely stuff in the St. Louis area. You want to talk to Melissa Mills, and hopefully my wife is adding a link to her for you, but she would love to help you. She's the local folk builder there, and surprisingly, we've had quite a bit of applicants just recently from that area. So that's really an area of growth for us lately. Matthew, I'm not sure about your statue of the Allfather. I'm not sure if that's a question or a statement. Um, what's up, Jason? Is the AFA in Illinois? Yes, we absolutely are. We have members in Illinois. Actually, we have a lot of growth in Illinois. I was just talking to the folk builder for that region earlier today, and that we've seen quite a bit of growth in Illinois. Anybody in Arizona? Yes, we do have people in Arizona. Any of you that are mentioning where you're at or reaching out that way, we will make sure to link that area's folk builder to your comment either during this chat or afterwards, so you guys can make that connection. It's very important, and I think you'd be surprised. We may not have people right next to you, but if you're willing to drive an hour or so, I'm sure we have people pretty close to most of you guys. I'm just streaming here, Michelle, as far as I'm aware. No, Daniel, universalism doesn't make sense. What those folks call Asatru is not Asatru, and it's unfortunate that there's so much of that in your country. Jay asks, how does one talk to a friend who is on the fence about joining the faith? Honestly and heartfeltly, um, it's less specifically what you say often and how you present it and how you present yourself. If you look serious, if your life is conducted in a serious way and you're finding success, you need to be that example. And that way they'll take what you're doing seriously and legitimately. If you can show them that Asatru has helped you in your life and illustrate to them that it helps you with the struggles you're going through with your soul and how you address the problems of life, that's going to be what sells it. Um, I think another good way, if they're having trouble getting with the metaphysics of it, is talk about the ancestral aspect, worshiping your ancestors. If they don't quite believe that the gods exist, well, certainly their grandparents existed. Certainly their great grandparents existed. So it's natural and right to honor those that have come before you, your grandparents, your great grandparents, and beyond. Eventually, and if they come with an open heart, then they'll realize the truth of our gods. They'll feel that in their heart and they'll feel that in their lives. But you got to get them to open up to that first. And I found that talking about our ancestors helps get them there. Recommendations for reading. It would all depend on what you're trying to read. I'm not sure exactly where you're going with what you're trying to read right now, as far as general understanding of just Asatru principles. Now, of course, you have to take these principles and find ways to apply them in your life in the times that you live. But I think that Culture of the Teutons by Wilhelm Groenbeck is a really great one to start with. If you want more of the modern practice, hey, Tony, I would suggest that you read Asatru, A Native European Spirituality by Steve McNallen. It's a really good basics of who we are and what we do and how it's practiced now. Those would be my first suggestions. Follow up if you have something more specific you're looking for a good book on. You guys are awesome. I'm getting a lot of questions tonight, and I really like that. And I'm getting some a little bit meatier questions, so really appreciate it. Um, Will, as far as has a particular god slash goddess been chosen for the new Hoth, or will future local kindred make that decision? Yes. No, that's a current discussion that I'm having. As a matter of fact, that's something I'm going to be talking about to the Witten about here in about a half an hour. Um, we're having one of our meetings, and we're going to discuss that a little bit. There's absolutely a plan. The short answer to your question is yes, but I want to solidify a couple of things before I make that announcement. And I think it's also kind of like in the sense of a baby naming. It's one of those things that you want to wait until the actual moment to do it, and it's not something you want to reveal beforehand in that regard. Excellent question. Jason asks, how would I describe the sacredness and significance of sacred burial space and what value it will add to our spiritual practice in the context of the hearth cult? Um, in a very fundamental and tangible way, our dead ancestors and loved ones will be with us while we celebrate and while we practice things in a sacred space. There's a spiritual might that develops in a sacred area. That's one of the beautiful things that I got to see in a different way when I was in Sweden, and before that when I was in Denmark. When you're in the stone circles, you're in a burial place over there, you're amongst grave mounds. There is a presence there that is palpable that you can feel. And it's said that those with second sight see things there. There's a spiritual energy, and there's a part of those that have passed that occupy those places and add to the might and the power of those places. Um, One of the things that you can feel when you go to Odin's over the years, and we've just been making that place sacred for 4 years now, and we can already feel the might that's accumulated through continuous ritual, through more sacred things being done on the grounds. When that place is permanently occupied by our loved ones and our ancestors, that will increase the spiritual power of that place. It will keep a portion of what they bring when they participate in ritual. A little bit of that will always be there when we practice rituals there. A little bit of that will always be there. When we have our friends and family that have passed there, and we do a wedding or a baby naming or anything, it'll be as if those people are in attendance, because in a way they are. And I think in a very significant way they are. David, yes, the Amazon Smile thing isn't working anymore. It's not working anymore because, unfortunately, Amazon has us on on a naughty list because the SPLC has defamed our character unjustly. Um, hmm. So, Rob, to talk a little bit about fate and free will, it's a bigger conversation than we have all of the time for here right now. But I will say this: so much of the interplay between those things and things that have to do with our both magical practice and spiritual practice have everything to do with synchronicity. One of the mysteries of the rune Rido, and a lot of people just see that as meaning, man on a horse or journeying. But one of the aspects of that mystery is doing the right thing in the right season. It's consistent cycles of right action. I think that there are things laid out and destiny laid out before us in a certain way, or certainly trending towards certain directions. I think there's a lot we can do in our life to synchronize with that and to move towards those things. I think that if we have a bad direction that we are headed towards, there's a lot we can do to become aware of it and to try to alter that course. But I think the key is recognizing and aligning ourselves with synchronicities and navigating our lives in that direction to where we're acting rightly consistently, and we're building up that habit. And I think that the more that we act right and do those things, that's the more we become aware of the divine. And the more we're aware of the divine, the more we move in the best and most beneficial destiny that we can have. Versus if we go willy nilly and we don't pay attention to those things, if we don't heed the call of the divine, if we don't practice the right things at the right time, then we lose and we become adrift in things. So I know that doesn't completely answer your question, but I think that touches on it. Yes, Jason, I think that our ancestors are connected very often with the mound. I think even those ancestors that get a level of heroic ascension still are aware and connected in a way with where their remains are, certainly where they're being, remembered. And I think that connection will only serve us well. I think that drawing attention from the ancestors, drawing attention from the divine by having that link to the other world there, that is only beneficial, assuming that we're worthy to stand before them. Sorry, guys, I'm looking on here for other comments because we're getting a lot of them. I appreciate you guys going so hard participating on this tonight. So, Bodhi is asking if I can speak a little bit on the soul complex and the parts of the soul. And not, I don't want to go too in depth on that tonight, other than to say that one thing that's very special about our faith is that there is a soul complex. There are different parts of the soul. And I think different places you are at different times, our ancestors had a slightly different understanding of which part was which. But some things are really, really important to note about it. The fact that your physical self is directly related and is a part of the whole complex that makes you a whole person, and we don't just see the soul as something that exists out here and the physical is not connected. The fact they're connected, I think, is really important. I think it says something about how we take care of our bodies, how we take care of our health, how we take care of how we look, because that physical part of ourselves is an essential part of our soul complex. And it being part of our soul complex makes it something sacred. Um, I think something else our soul complex acknowledges is a difference between thought and memory, like the All Father has Hugin and Munin. Um, I think that's really interesting because there's certain things that we get at different times in our life or that are bestowed upon us. And ancestral memory is one of those things. I think left to its own devices, often it works its way out. But very specifically, when we do a baby naming, we affix a part of the soul to that child. We take something that's not fully complete yet and we imbue it with something special to fill that space and to add that to that person's soul matrix. Um, I think also by that exact same token, we have elements of our soul that are passed down in our family lines that accompany us at birth and that go down the line. And I think something else that's really interesting to our soul complex is the idea of the Filya, the idea of the fairy godmother or of the cross gender spiritual force that looks on and helps guide us. And that repository of sacredness that we work our lives to integrate with, to connect with, and to form a unison with. So I think that's really interesting and very much a part of our soul complex. Um, Mandy is replying to a Corey about something, and I have no idea what they're talking about. Um, Talking to a spouse about Asatru. That's tricky because it's it is highly preferable to start out a relationship with someone who already shares that in common with you, and that helps for you and your spouse to grow in the same direction and grow in a unified way. It's much harder when you guys were all in one place and then one of you drastically changes your conception of the world and then tries to integrate that or tries to do it separately. Or what I think is the best method is try to bring that spouse along with you. Um, One advantage is hopefully your spouse knows you, knows who you are, where you come from, what kind of a person you are, and hopefully you've established a situation where they trust your judgment, um, and where they have confidence in choices that you make. And I think they're much more apt to take a big life, veering, of course, like embracing Asatru with some seriousness. I think what is essential is you find a way that they take you seriously and open their mind to it. I think that the world we live in today, Asatru is so different than a lot of things we find surrounding us that there's a knee jerk reaction to not take it seriously. And the more we can do to show a loved one, a spouse, a family member, a friend, the seriousness of what we do and how we relate to divinity, that opens a door. And I think once they go through it, certainly with the Asatru Folk Assembly, they can see that it's a serious thing. And I think that's a major selling point, and I've seen that work very well for other couples. Yeah, we're absolutely loading these on YouTube. I just started loading all of the ones I've done onto YouTube Sunday and have them all up. Can't see them live there. It's one or the other. I can either do a live YouTube thing or I can do a live Facebook thing. The Facebook gets a much bigger audience right now, so it's just the more practical of the two to do. If anybody has any different suggestions on that, I don't claim to be a tech wizard that way. Please let me know, and maybe we could do something different. But right now, this is the best way to reach the most of my AFA family. Yes, any West Virginia people, talk to Rob. Rob would love to help out in West Virginia. One second, guys. I'm going to look on. I get different things on my phone than I get on the little sidebar, as I was saying. Hmm. In the meantime, while I'm looking for any of these ones that I may have missed, um, does anybody have any questions they want to ask or anything that's on their mind for the ones that I can see on here? Yes, this is in place of Thursday. Thursday is the 4th of July. It's American Independence Day. And it just seemed like a not the most opportune time. I know a lot of people are going to spend that time with their family. There's a lot of people going to go and camp and get outdoors and do a lot of stuff. Seemed like tonight would be a much better night for it. I appreciate Mandy pointing that out to me because I'd spaced it when I posted about it this morning. So, yep, this is the one for July, but we'll move back to Thursday come August. Yeah, Matthias Red Ice is fantastic. Those people have always been great to us. Henrik and Lana are lovely people. Um, those guys have been fantastic to the AFA, and we'd love to see them out in the AFA event sometime. I've appreciated opportunities I've had to be on their program. So yeah, those I think those are some fine people. Yeah, Zach Cato, I'm not sure what you'd heard, but we've never had any plans for a Hoff in Missouri. We would love to get a Hoff in Missouri, but I think it's not going to be this Hoff number two, and it's probably not going to be Hoff number three or four. But if Missouri really ups its game before we get Hoff, before we move that far, then I would love to have one there. Um, any place that can build a stable AFA community that's dedicated, that's regular, and that's capable of having a Hoff and taking care of it, we would love to see that happen. But yeah, I'm sorry if there's any confusion with that, Zach. William, you're in central Illinois and you want to look for a kindred. You go to www.runestone.org and you look under contacts. It's got a page for kindreds and it shows the kindreds close to you. If you don't find one that's close to you, or even if you do, you want to talk to our kindred coordinator. He can be reached at kindreds@runestone.org or at jgallagher@runestone.org. Jason would love to help you find the closest kindred to you. Brandon, you're asking about how to determine true faith and whether it's internal to you or something that you should be outspoken about. Um, I don't think it's necessarily something you beat everyone else over the head with, but as much as there are subjective truths, there are objective truths as well. And when you know something to be true, when you feel it, when you've experienced it, I think that you should be humble enough to accept the depth and breadth of what you might know and what you might not be sure of. But I think you should absolutely speak the truth that you know to be true, and you should speak it boldly. When it comes to issues of faith, you shouldn't equivocate or, to each their own. With some things, perhaps, but having the discernment to know the difference between, these things are absolutely right and these things are absolutely wrong, and then all that gray area in between. It's a lot of what comes with maturity, of being a man, of growing up in our faith, of evolving and becoming a better Asatru and a better man in general. You get that wisdom over time. I know I have. Not there yet, but I better than I was this time that year at or last year at it. So we always want to get a little bit closer, but there is right and wrong, and you shouldn't be, ashamed to speak up and say, "Hey, this is bad. No, this over here is good." People ask, "Oh, well, who's to say what's right and wrong?" You are. That's part of being an Aryan man, is making a choice and deciding the difference between right and wrong and moving forward with willpower. And you never want to do it arrogantly. You want to be humble enough to take direction from your elders and those, those above you and those who've done more than you or know more than you. But you also need to have steely determination to go the right way when you know it, when you find it. Getting so many comments here, and it's very hard to do this interface on my phone. I know you guys are tired of hearing me say it, but I do feel bad if I'm gonna, if I don't get to your question. If you guys do have a question that I don't answer, I promise I will go back through and I'll look at all of these and try to answer them best I can afterwards. Brian wants me to mention the newly accepted Gothi/Githya students in our Gothar program this year. I'd like to announce that as students, we have James Dover of South Carolina. We have Christo LaRue of South Africa, and we have Katie Allen of Idaho. And we wish those three students the best. It's a very difficult, very challenging course. We hope you learn a lot from that course, and we hope that you prove yourselves worthy of that course. Katrina, if you want to go about training to be a Githya, what you would need to do is contact Blaine Qualls, bqualls@runestone.org. He runs our Gothar program, and the next time you'd have an availability to apply would be sometime before next midsummer. We start our classes on midsummer. There's some prerequisites and things he'd probably like to talk to you about to see where you're at and get you on a road towards success. So whether you're ready to apply or if it's something you plan to do down the road, he can get you on the road towards where you want to go. Off in every state, that's the plan. Not going to give up till it happens. Not going to give up after it happens. Buying land. Has there ever been a thought passed around about buying land? Yes. There is frequently thoughts of that. It's certainly been discussed as long as Asatru has been around. It depends on what you want to do with the land. People have often talked about, communal living, about having our own farms and livestock and things. And turns out that most of us here in 2019 like to talk about that stuff, but very few of us are committed to actually living the lifestyle to make that work. And I don't say that disparagingly. I don't know how to go out and raise barns and, feed hogs. And that's not what I'm, skilled at doing. And I think very often we talk about that, but don't realize exactly how hard that is. Talking about buying land to construct a Hof, that's also been talked about a lot. But to build a Hof worthy of our gods that meets, a modern standard is very, very difficult. And it's also very cost ineffective at this point in our ability to fundraise and our ability to handle that. So perhaps in the future, that's something that we'd like to do. But as it stands now, we're much better served, we found, purchasing existing structures. Joe, I think in a lot of senses and a lot of ways, I think Frigg does serve the Earth Mother aspect in a lot of ways. I think as she's depicted in our lore as, the wife of the Allfather, I think it puts the relationship of Skyfather and Earth Mother in proper balance, or in a proper ordering. Um, I can't say that I'm an expert on Rydberg's theories, but I do think that there is a lot of aspects of Frigga that meet the the basic understanding of any of the Aryan concept of Earth Mother. I think that Earth Mother is something that our people have always understood under different names and different guises, and I think that Frigga carries a great deal of that with her. Hmm. So, flint napping, are you talking, when you talk about government land, are you talking about homesteading, or what are you talking about with the land? I guess is a question I'd have for you. And David, thoughts on Norena Society? Mark Purrier is a great guy. Uh, Friend of mine, he's always done, as far as I know, he's always done right by the AFA in general. Morena Society, I like a lot of the things they're doing. I really like the effort they're putting in to get the scholarship down. And it's great that we've got people out there discovering these nuggets in our lore that, add a little bit different spin on things, or a little bit different perspective, or they further perfect linguistics and translation. And I think that's great. Um, I don't like everything that they do. I don't agree with, every conclusion that Mark has come to. But at the end of the day, I think Mark's a good man, and I think his heart's in the right place, and he is trying to advance Asatru for everyone and discover knowledge and pearls of wisdom that we all can make use of to perfect our faith and move it in a good direction. I endorse, I don't know if there is the right word, but they seem like good folks. I know Mark is a good person, and I'll tell you this, his heart's in the right place. So, for what it's worth. All right, guys, is there any last questions you have? And again, if I find your comment somewhere else and I haven't responded to them, I will look at them. I will reply. I'll do my very best. Um, in about 6 minutes, we have an AFA Witten meeting that I need to go conduct. So, but for the next 6 minutes, you guys got me. If there's any last questions or any last things you wanted to make sure I commented on while I have you today. We just have a bunch of folks who just popped in joining us. You're very welcome, Rob. I look forward to these. I love doing these. I feel like this is a really nice chance to get to talk to you guys and hopefully answer some questions, clear some things up, or just have a chat with. I genuinely believe in the whole AFA family concept. You guys are my family. I love you guys, and I look forward to a chance to talk to you about our church, about our faith, about our community and our family. Okay, so never get what you don't ask for. Matthias raises a really good point. I should definitely be plugging the various things we need donations for on the Runestone site. If you go to www.runestone.org, I have a number of things we're trying to raise money for. First, on there, we're trying to raise money for our folk in South Africa. A lot of you know about the persecution of the white farmers in South Africa. We've got folks that have been viciously persecuted because they share the same ancestry and the same folk soul that we have. Those people have been impoverished, humiliated, and reduced. People that built that country have been reduced into a state of crushing poverty and depression. Now, for the first time in the history of the Asatru Folk Assembly. We actually have a kindred over there, and we have people passing out the relief supplies that we've raised money for, be them blankets, warm clothing, food. We have AFA members on the ground passing out AFA supplies to these people and letting them know the Asatru Folk Assembly loves them and cares about them. So anything you can do with that, a dollar goes a long way over in South Africa. You'd be surprised. So every little bit helps. Another thing we're always raising money for is Folk Services. If you guys don't know, Folk Services is a program we have to where we can help out members of our AFA family if they fall on hard times. If there's natural disaster, if somebody loses a job, if something unforeseen happens, through you guys' generous donations, we have the ability now to step in and try to help people. Maybe it's helping them make a payment. Maybe it's helping with some bills. Maybe it's replacing something small that they lost. Maybe it's getting them a hotel room or a meal for a night. It depends. We can't fix somebody's entire life, but the more we donate, the more we contribute, the bigger force we can actually be in helping these people in times of need. And I'm very proud and thankful that you guys donate to that. And then last but certainly not least, big fundraising effort, HOF 2. It's coming. It's happening. I've vowed to make it happen within this next calendar year. We're working very hard on it, but we need your help. We need your contributions, and I'm committed to making HOFs occur. It's absolutely something we're going to do. It is all that much easier with every dollar you guys give. It's that much easier. So please, if you can, donate. We certainly appreciate it. If you can donate in large dollar amounts, we'll get your name on a plaque there as far as a donor plaque. As we move forward with the project, we'll have some more ideas as far as generating donations. But if you go there and you donate to HOF 2, you will really help accelerate this process forward. Thank you guys very much. Like I say, I've got my Whitten call that I've got to get on here in just a second. I'm looking at any last questions I can quick throw out an answer to. All right, guys. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you guys first Thursday of August. If anything, if you guys need to get a hold of me between now and then, reach out on here or Matt Flavel at runestone.org. Please don't hesitate to reach out. But if I don't talk to you guys until then, I will see you guys in August. Hail the gods, hail the folk, hail the AFA.